We're going to take a look at a really cool trick today that uses an area in Photoshop that a lot of folks never get into, and that's mainly because it's really scary. And it's right under the File menu, and if I go down to Scripts, alright, this is one place that a lot of people don't get into just because the word script is kind of intimidating, and I agree with you, but there's actually some cool things to be found here, and you don't need to know anything about scripting. One of those is layer comps to PDF. This is a way to take your layer comps, multiple images, multiple versions, and turn it into one PDF that you can send off to somebody. So your first question probably is, what's a layer comp? And I'll get into that as well. Alright, so I've got a Photoshop document here, got a few different layers. Each layer has a different tinted effect applied to it. And the way I got this, I just went to Image, Adjustments, and then over to Color Balance. And I just tinted. I added some red and a little bit of yellow here to the shadows, the midtones, and the highlights here. And that's how I got some of these tints. So now what I want to do is I want to turn each of these into its own file, but put them all into a PDF. But I don't want to save each one individually. So here's what you do. Go open your Layer Comps palette. Go to Window, down to Layer Comps. Now, it saves document states. So right now I've only got the background layer showing. So I'm going to create a new layer comp, and I'll just click OK. And that creates that layer comp for me. And that's the one with the background that's showing. Now let's turn on layer 1. I'll create the layer comp, and I'll hit OK. And now I have a new one, and that one's going to show me this first layer. Do the same thing for this other layer. And then again, let's turn on the last one here, and we'll go ahead and click OK. So here's what we've got. We've got 4 layer comps. When I click on it, you'll see that it remembers the layer palette state, the document state that it was in when I created that layer palette, or when I created that layer comp. Okay, so now what's really cool about this is if I save it, I can really quickly get to each one without going to the layers palette and turning layers on and off. Now there's only 4 layers here, and it works fine, but just imagine if we had 50. Alright, it kind of becomes a pain to turn all these layers on and off. So that's where layer comps come in handy. But they come in really handy because now what we can do is come up to the File menu, go down to Scripts. I can choose Layer Comps to PDF. Inside here, we're going to get a dialog. In that dialog, I'll just browse and I'll call it Matt's Photos. We'll hit Save. So that's where it's going to save it, onto my desktop into a PDF called Matt's Photos. And then it'll save it in a slideshow, basically a PDF presentation. It tells you right down here. Alright, so I can choose to advance these slides automatically every 3 seconds or however long that I want to. And then let's just click Run here, and it's going to go through. You'll see Photoshop doing some work and some thinking. Pops up a dialog, says that it's done. So we'll click OK on that one. And now let's go take a look here. Go to my Finder window, and you see here's my PDF. So let's go ahead and open that up. Now it's telling me that Acrobat wants to open it in full screen mode because that's presentation mode, and that's totally fine. So I'll click yes, and there's our presentation. So it's going to advance to the next slide, and then the next one, and finally one more, because remember we had 4 total. And I said to loop, so it's going to go right back to the beginning here. So what you did there is you took basically 4 different layers, made them into a layer comp, and you had Photoshop do all the work for saving and exporting and making this into a PDF for you. You didn't have to do any work yourself. Photoshop takes care of it. Again, it's only 4 images in this one, but if you wanted to send this to a client and maybe you had 20 or 25 different images or versions inside of your layers palette, think of the time that this saves you, because now Photoshop does the work. It saves it out for you. You don't have to go in and save everything.